G'day and welcome to Insights and Storytellings with me, Moon Willow. As always, it's a real honour and privilege to have your energy combining with mine to do these storytellings. Well, it's certainly been a very weird year, and this time last year I was feeling something similar but for completely different reasons. So I am a little bit hesitant as to what I'm letting go of and what I plan on bringing in for the new year, which is my usual habit, really. Habit? Yeah, we'll go with habit. But I think this year I'm just going to leave it up to the universe and see what comes in and try and deal with it as and when it does come in, as opposed to setting up any particular intentions, because I think the universe and my higher self have a clearer idea as to where I'm going, as opposed to me trying to force any particular outcomes or possible certainties for the upcoming year, really. I've really noticed today that it's been sort of like a very pressurized day, and hasn't felt particularly positive, although I've noticed that there has been quite a good flow going off at the same time, which is quite a weird juxtaposition, I guess. So really feeling a heaviness in my head and a tightness, a lot more spinning today in my mind, and really this almost like this underlying pressure to step into the dark and step into negativity and negative thought processes, and it's really been a challenge, I guess, to really stay in the higher vibrations and not get pulled under by the undertow I was talking about earlier this week. I can really feel its presence. It's almost palpable, and I find it's a bit difficult to stay on top and stay with the higher vibrations. And I'm just wondering if anybody else is experiencing something similar as we're shifting through the energies. But I chose to do something about it today. I noticed that there was this pressing desire just to really step into sort of like the darker aspects and really disappear, I guess. But what I did instead was went to one of my favorite places and went for a walk out in the sunshine and really connected to the world around me, and got to see a lot of birds and numerous squirrels, which I absolutely adore watching play. And although there were several other people around, I didn't feel inundated by them or pressurized into being in any particular way, just able to flow at my own rate and move in my own way and manner around a space that I really enjoy. And then was able to, ended up connecting with someone and able to verbalize sort of those aspects that I was finding more negative today, which really helped. So I guess what I'm saying is that we can acknowledge that undertow and that pressure to step into that negative aspects, step into that fear, step into the anxiety, step into the it's never going to be any different, this is the way it's going to be, we may as well just cave and get lost in that negative underlying feel, ever-present feel at the moment, instead of finding those methods that work for us to step into that higher vibration and really break out of that undertow and actually work out how to flow on top. And for me, walking meditation or walking around the reserve really helps, and just getting out not only of my headspace and those negative thought processes, but literally getting out of the house and going outside and really connecting to the world around me, the natural world, not the preconceived mass media presence, but disconnecting and unplugging from that and really connecting to Gaia, Earth, birds, squirrels, four-leggeds, anything that is not controlled by fear or the mainstream media, and really stepping into a different flow. And in those moments, that's when the synchronicities, I find the synchronicities come in, and we can work out how to negotiate and navigate those negative pressures, and sort of find hope again, and find those wonderful patterns that just contribute to our well-being and help us move into that higher dimension and that higher frequency, and realize that there is always light, and that we don't have to get sucked under, we don't have to get pulled into the darker reaches and the darker spaces. So on that note, we'll see which chakra crystal is wanting to be heard tonight or this afternoon, whatever time of day it is. So we've got green aventurine, so coming back into our heart space and creating our heart desire, and noticing sort of like that pressure to step into doom and gloom, step into pain, step into torment, and actually realize and recognize that our heart's desires can be achieved, that we don't have to stay within the negative, we don't have to be pulled under, but we have the ability and the alchemy to recognize that there is a loving world out there, and a compassionate world, one that is not in fear but is in loving connections, and that we are able to continue creating that. And my heart's desire today was to really be a part of the natural world, and there was a way that I could do that, and recognizing that in our day-to-day lives, and instead of sitting back and thinking, oh well, I'll do that later, or I can do that tomorrow, but actually seizing that moment and going out and doing it, and walking our talk, walking our path. And each time we do that, it's a little easier to do that the next time, is my experience. So from that, we'll see which cards come out and want to be told within this story. And yesterday I was talking about sort of going back to basics. And when I was thinking about that earlier in the day, I was reminded that that was a slogan from the government probably about 15 years ago. Might be slightly longer, I don't know. Linear time's not my best method of holding on to stuff. And certainly not this year. Linear time has been very bizarre this year, I found. And it's, for me, it is going back to basics at the moment, and really looking in our heart space and what is the basics that we need, that we can find the support from the world outside, that even if we are alone, that we aren't, that we're supported by our higher self, our connection to source, our connection to Gaia, Earth, whichever you want to call it. And actually by being present when we go for a walk or just stand outside, that we are connected to the trees, the plants, the birds, squirrels. I love squirrels, I just have to say. Four-legged, other human beings though as well, and we don't need to know them. There was a couple of times today as well that I made exchanges with people that I have never met before, and that was warming, that was sharing, and there was no sort of boundaries or barriers in that moment, that it was just a shared experience, and that helped lift my mood, that helped bringing me out of that darker elements. And it can be found on a day-to-day basis, a moment-to-moment basis, but when we get lost within our heads, or when we get lost in that feel of being pulled under and sort of struggling and fighting to get breath, to get out of the water and to get away from that darker undertone, if we're almost like if we're resisting, we get caught further. Whereas if we allow the flow to go through, I find that we do come back up to the surface, that if we just allow that to wash through and actually recognize that we're okay, that we're able to breathe, we're able to step outside of those feelings and witness them and see them for what they are, that it's almost like a mass hysteria going off at the moment, that we don't have to fully step into, that we can actually step through and away or over it. And by going out for my walk, I actually, as I say, I met people that I could pass just a few words, but there was no strings attached, there was no negative elements to that. That were just real positive and shared higher vibrational moments that just allowed me to flow through and beyond the initial feelings that I had this morning of doom and gloom. And it is recognizing that they do exist, but we have a way of stepping out of them, of freeing ourselves from them, that we're not entangled in them completely. I've just had the concept of reeds next to the water edge, and if the more we fight it, the more we get stuck, the more we get dragged under. But if we look up and look for a way through, without fighting, just allowing ourselves to move through it, we invariably do. So I'll see what cards come through. I'm hoping this is making sense to some of you out there. So the three cards are the basket of flowers, house, and our crosses back. So we're well and truly being protected and supported by higher frequencies and spirit guides and soul families and source itself. And I don't mean tomato sauce, just saying. So yeah, welcome to the inside of my head. So going to the basket of flowers, it's heart health. So very much that underlying pressure that seems to be coming through of being incredibly fearful that we've got to panic at every little thing, that we can't trust our experiences, we can't trust our reality, we can't trust the way that our heart feels. And this, but I really believe that we should and that we can, that if we view the pressure to step into the fear, if we recognize where it's coming from, that it's coming from an outside source, that we can choose not to step into it, we can actually support our health and our heart. And if we utilize compassion and unconditional love, the ties and the hooks that can come in end up being released, because we're not stressing about it, we're not creating a bigger story around it, we're letting it go. That's sort of what's coming through really on that one. And it feels like it's going back into that concept of reeds, or if you get caught in the riptide, the best way to actually survive either of those is not to fight it, but to just allow your body to relax and go with the flow. And you will end up seeing the way out. And it really feels like that at the minute, that if we fight it or get caught in it deeper, we're more inclined to get lost or get overwhelmed by those feelings and sensations of negativity, and that nothing's going to work. This year has been horrendous and we've been pushed around all over the shop. But at the end of the day, we have survived it. We have got to the end of it. And letting go of what could have been, what should have been, all of that, and actually just flowing and really stepping into that now moment. Having a real looking back as well, just having that real compassionate understanding that all the way through we've been doing the best we can, and sometimes we've possibly not made the best informed decisions, but we've been getting through it, and now is the time to not get caught up in any of what may have been, what should have been, what could have been, any of that, and just simply let it be, so that we can alchemize and move into that higher frequency, hopefully, fingers crossed. So going into the next card, which is the house. So again, I really feel that for within these storytellings, the house is very much our bodies. So our souls, I really believe this, that our souls have chosen this particular suit, body to inhabit for whatever reason. We may never know. At other points, people do work out what it is about their particular body, as to why they chose it to navigate this particular world, this particular lifetime, this particular moment, interdimensionally. From a quantum time, this is the one that we seem to be paying the most attention to. This is certainly the one I'm paying the most attention to. Although my dreams feel like that they're wanting more attention than I would give normally. But it's really nurturing these bodies by eating nutritional food, noticing when we're tired, and allowing ourselves to rest and giving ourselves permission to rest, that it isn't a race. We don't have to get to the end point yesterday, that actually slow and steady always wins the race. And that if we've got, that if we're experiencing a pain or a pressure, really feeling into that, noticing it, recognizing that sometimes there's nothing we can do about it, that actually it just is. If we're feeling overwhelmed, it might be time to go out for a walk and reconnecting externally, really getting a feel for our bodies, and really recognizing that they are doing a really good job at helping us negotiate everything that's going off. And the more connected we feel internally, externally with Source, with Earth, and the more we recognize when we're tired, when we rest, that we're actually supporting our immune systems and we're actually handling everything that's thrown at us in the best way that we can. And we have got incredible hearts. Really feel that. I feel that we have got incredible hearts, and that they have been taken on quite a painful journey. And there are some times when that feels more overwhelming and more painful than others. But it's recognizing that we can find moments, even in the most painful of situations, where we can actually feel that compassion towards ourselves and actually feel the lightness at the same time. And as I say, that can be as seemingly as simple as watching the sunset or connecting with a bird, really connecting with the tree, hearing the wind, allowing, I do this a lot if there's a really windy night or day, that I can really imagine that blowing out the cobwebs, that it's really clearing through and enabling us to have space to bring more in, to bring more joy in and move forward. This leads me into the last card, which is the cross. So I'm seeing this in two ways. So a lot of what is being spoken about at the moment is the cross of Christos. So that real Christ energy, which for those of you who've known me for a lot of years may find it bizarre that I'm actually speaking about Christ in this particular way, but I've been on an incredible journey this year, and I've seen sort of the pure essence of Christ, the Christ essence, and sort of have noticed that, as with majority of stories, that the interpretations have been changed over the years by man and women, humankind, to elicit a specific response, to elicit a certain way of being, instead of actually what it came through as the purest sense and the purest way. So for me, it's very much about our connection with Source, with that pure energy of the universe, and being able to access that, really linking into the fact that we have free will. But then from that, the cross of this particular cards at the moment, it's also linking in with our ancestors, our soul family. There's families of the universe, and I really believe that we are not alone in this universe, that humans are only one aspect of the universe as a whole, and that we have chosen these particular flesh suits to be a part of what's going off at the moment. And we are supported by that Christ energy, by source energy, whatever label you want to give it, it doesn't matter. But by being in this particular incarnation, we have got free will, and how we are open to the purer forms and our real heart space and what our hearts desire, honestly what our hearts desire, and being fully present with that and compassionate with all levels, and knowing that we have all levels going off at the same time, and that pure love of everything, and everything in this world, and really accessing and sitting with that for me. And very much a real connection back with Earth has been really important for me in this particular lifetime. I've always felt connected to Earth, and I have a deeper sense of her as I've got older, especially through this year. And it feels like it's been enriched by being very present, just even in my back garden, and noticing the different inhabitants of this world as well, that are not just humans. So it's really that elevation, I guess, is what I'm noticing, and that real communication and feel into my higher self source, and can really feel my connections with people that feel like soul connections, and having my ancestors and soul family that are not on this plane. I can really feel that they have my back as well. But I can also feel like earlier today there was this real push, because I was feeling out of sorts, and could really feel a sort of a more negative entity elements going off, that there was this real push that I could feel to disconnect from source, from my soul family, from the higher frequencies, and I'm really pleased that I didn't choose that. So I think what I'm trying to say in this, which feels quite roundabout and random, as possibly they all do, I don't know, that it's really our heart connection with the green aventurine, really feeling into it, noticing the pool as if they were the reeds or the undercurrent that is coming from an external area, and how that feeds into previous dialogues, previous storylines that we may have held in our past. So trying not to flounder in there, trying not to get caught up in it even further or more entangled, but witnessing it and letting it go, and just flowing and focusing on our higher self, on the higher dimension, on the higher frequencies that are around, and really feeling into A, what your heart desires, B, what brings your heart joy, and doing it from a very compassionate and loving space. So I'm hoping that this is resonating for some of you that are listening to this, and as I say, I really appreciate it, and I'm just becoming more and more aware of the synchronicities in the world, and just noticing that even on the darker days that the flow does exist, and trying to change my focus into that particular synchronistic flow, and that higher vibration, and although acknowledging that the other levels are present, but trying not to step into it. And again, as I say, really trying to be present and in the now moment, with that compassionate, unconditional love. So I'm going to, I haven't got a song today that I can, that's been going, I've had plenty of songs today going off in the background of my mind. That's fairly typical for my days. I have to say that I do have a lot of music in my head on a fairly frequent basis. But I think to end this storytelling today, I'm just going to see what sound comes through. So thank you very much for being with me. I hope that in however you're celebrating or not celebrating the end of 2020, I think it's still an ideal opportunity to review the year with 2020 vision, but not get hooked into it, letting go of, as I say, what did or didn't happen this year. But really focusing in on that higher vibration, that more bliss level, and very much with the Green Aventurine today, what your heart desires and how you would like to bring that connectivity and continued higher level of vibrational energy in for 2021. So hopefully I will be back tomorrow. I'm not sure. We will see. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. Love you all. Bye for now.